Work worth doing. That is the topic of the hour. Hello, good day, greetings, bonjour, and salams to peeps from all around the world. Welcome to the live. Now, this particular series is called, Impact 2.0, where we feature purpose-driven leaders making a dent in the universe in their own special way. Stick around, and I promise you that you'll walk away with one, if not more, practical yet scrumptious takeaways from each of these live sessions, like an ice cream sundae topped with heavy whipped cream, melted dark chocolate, and a dash of gold dust. But most importantly, if you turn up live, you'll get a chance to ask each guest questions that are bugging you like an itch that can't be scratched. Now, my today's guest believes that you're the one in the saddle. You're the one in control. It's time to enjoy the ride. He's the best-selling author of Work Worth Doing and founder of Realign Global. So will you please put your virtual hands together to welcome my fantabulous guest, Chet Morjaria.
Thank you, Amber. Really good to be here. What an introduction and what a banner and what energy. SThank you for all of that.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me today.
Absolute pleasure.
Now, Chet, before we go into the scones and jam of this conversation, we're going to start off the show with a quick fire round. Are you ready?
Yes, ready. Let's do it.
All right. Let's go. What's the most regrettable fashion style you've worn?
Okay, regrettable fashion style. I think probably my everyday current fashion style is pretty regrettable, Amber, I have to say. But I'll explain. So bottom half tends to be, obviously we can't see it on Zoom, but bottom half tends to be like rocker, motorbiker. I love motorbikes. So typically I'm wearing like skinny jeans, which is probably regrettable fashion in itself, and some boots, some grungy boots or some smart boots or something like that. So bottom half, rocker, biker, top half, granddad. So like I've got the brown jumper on right now. Usually I'll have a cardigan on as well. So, rocker, granddad I would say that's pretty regrettable.
I think that's probably everyone's lockdown look these days.
Well, it's my staying in, my going out look. It's my whole look.
Awesome. Now, if you could only read one book over and over again for the rest of your life, which one would it be?
Good question. You know what? This might not be the answer that you're wanting, hoping, or thinking about, but it would probably be, I think there's a danger with I know you're not asking it on a literal level, but I think there's a danger with getting really absorbed with one way of thinking, one book, one model, one methodology, unless it's your own one, of course. Yeah. And so actually, maybe the one book I'd recommend is a notebook, a blank book for you to write your own stuff in.
I love that. I love that answer because it's so very different from what the other guests have said. And I understand why you've said that.
And I'll be really honest. I mean, are there books that have changed the course of my life? Are there books that have changed the course of my business? Yes, of course they are. But I think it's pertinent and probably powerful not to necessarily hinge a bunch of that on one given book, and to be able to absorb what you need from those different pieces.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. I love it. Now, if you could take 3 things to a desert island, what would they be?
So I was listening in prep for this podcast. I was listening to some of your previous episodes.
Yeah.
And I think it was Tony that said he would take a knife, which I love. I have a strange fascination with knives, but that's probably a story for another podcast. And so a knife for sure. And probably going back to the previous answer, exactly like Tony said, a pencil, which you can of course sharpen with the knife. And I love the a notebook. And I love the multi-sensory experience of pencil, not pen, but pencil on paper. Yeah. I really, the sound, all of it.
All of it. Actually, that is so true. I love writing with pencil as well. It's just the feeling and the sound, as you said, is totally different as compared to, I don't know, if a fountain pen or ballpoint or any other thing you're using.
I honestly think it facilitates the presentness and the creativity because all the senses are involved.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. I agree with that. All right. What's the best advice you've ever been given?
Probably the best advice that I've been given was from and is from my dad. And he just told me for years, probably like many dads tell their kids, that I can be anyone, I can do anything, I can be anything. And of course, when you're younger, that advice, you're just like, you're my dad, of course you'd say that, right? And I think over the years, and only just now, am I truly starting to understand it and truly starting to believe that myself after 40 years, and starting to own that, but believe that the work worth doing and the confidence that I have in myself and the visions that I have for the future come from that advice from my dad. That advice, which just sounds like words when you're a kid, but they're truly meaningful words when you actually get down to it.
Well, I'm sure he's very proud of you when you say that, and vice versa, as you look up to him and still remember his advice. Lastly, if you could have any superhuman power, what would it be?
So I've been asked this question before, and this might sound really egotistical, but actually I'm pretty happy with my own superpowers. You know, one of my superpowers is helping other people understand and verbalize their superpowers. And that is work worth doing for me, you know, helping people to understand what meaningful work is for them and to put that into powerful words.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't really wish for more. Like, I mean, I enjoy that and I find power and value in that, and my people find power and value in that. So hey, let's rock the superpower we have.
That's definitely a superpower. I mean, I would love to have that one where I can help others find their superpowers. That's really awesome.
It's good fun.
Well, you rocked the session, Chet, and that calls for a celebration. Woohoo! Celebration. Celebrate good times. All right.
I hope you enjoyed the dad dancing there as well.
And mommy dancing here.
There you go.
All right, Chet. Now it's time to get into the scones and jam of this conversation. Now, Chet, imagine that I'm holding a pair of boxing gloves. Could you take these gloves and smash for me, and not my face, please, but some kind of work myth, a bogus strategy, or a misconception, and set the record straight once and for all?
Oh, what a good question, Amber. I love this. And at the beginning of the book, Worth Doing, there's a manifesto of 20 points, which are basically 20 myths. So the first one that comes to mind when you say that is the myth that work has to be a grind. That it needs to be a grind, and actually maybe even that it should be a grind. You know, often we get brought up through, again, might be parents, through schooling, through our first interactions with work, thinking that, and when we start work, often we're doing that because we're working to work, we're figuring it out. It might not be a job that's super aligned to us, super aligned to our abilities or whatever, right? So put all this stuff together, coupled with social media and you know, the sort of motivational memes and all this kind of stuff, and perhaps we end up with this myth. And to me, the concept of a myth is in itself is that we don't necessarily realize that it's incorrect, right? We think this is the truth for us at this particular point in time. So that idea that work has to be a grind then maybe moves on to this sense of, if it's not a grind, if it's something that is fun, if it's something that's creative, if it's something that is visionary, think of an artist, then the starving artist myth is the second myth that follows on from that, right? That we have to choose. That we have to choose between either work that is a grind, but you can make money from it and it's productive and all of this kind of stuff, or that it's work that is fun and creative and exploratory, but then you can't make money from it. So you can't, the myth that you can't do work that is in line with your values and that is valuable at the same time. So a few different myths maybe, but they definitely all come from each other, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, we're going to dive deeper into what you just spoke about, values and how do we actually find that intersection, what you actually spoke about, because youngsters today are, my son that you just met, they're at the state, they've just started universities and they're thinking about their careers, and everybody is now thinking, okay, well, I love doing this, but I really should be doing that because there's money in this, but there's no money in that. And you're confused. The pressure builds up over time. And you just don't know what is the right way, So we'll talk more about that, obviously, a bit later on. I just wanted to share that we are streaming to LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube simultaneously. If for some reason your LinkedIn stream plays up, you can continue over on a YouTube channel, which is at bit.ly/spreading ideas with Amber Khan. Alrighty. So let's get back to what you were talking about. But before we do that, could you share with the viewers and listeners, why do you do what you do?
Why do I do what I do? So yeah, good question. And it comes back to this idea, this intersection, as you put it, of meaningful work and powerful words. Because I guess before we talk about why I do what I do, we should probably define what I do, right? So, so my work in a few different guises is at this convergent point of meaningful work and powerful words. And like you said, that is and was an exploration to this point of understanding, trying to figure out what the themes are, the themes that were present throughout my life from your son's age, at least from those university days. And from when I started doing things that resembled work, whether they were paid work or whether they were not paid work. And then reverse engineering what the themes maybe were through that, which is, and we can talk about this some more if you like, but that's how I came to the idea of, okay, actually, when I do my best work, it's at this intersection of meaningful work and powerful words. And that's through strands of business that I've done over the past 20 years. It's through themes of communication that I've done over the past 20 years. It's through themes of coaching as well. But in terms of like being able to understand why I do what I do, to me, it's about taking those themes, looking at where they might have been present in work that was worth doing in different aspects of your life, and then shaping your world and work right now to do as much of that stuff as possible. So why do I do work worth doing? Which my definition of work worth doing is work that is fun, work that is freeing, work that is financially and emotionally rewarding, and therefore work that is fulfilling. Well, whenever we look at any models, I think, of human needs, we ultimately end up at this peak of fulfillment and alignment. And so these two things are maybe they're what we're searching for. They're definitely what I'm searching for. And the closest I've got to fulfillment in my own life and my own work is work worth doing. Is this idea of, actually, if I can do stuff that is fun, that is freeing, fulfilling, financially rewarding, if I can do stuff that is in line with my values, if I can do that in a way that is really valuable to other people as well, then that, to me, is what life and work is all about. That's why I do what I do.
Yeah, lovely. I love that. And I think a lot of us struggle with, with not only with what's happened with, with COVID and stuff, but generally struggle with aligning what we do to our own values. I'm sure, like if you were to speak to 5 people, 4 out of 5 would say that we just do it because it's, at the end of the day, it brings a paycheck home. And, you know, but it's a lot of the times it's not what they want to do. It's not what makes them happy. It's not really what aligns with their values. So where do you say, where do we actually start? If somebody is in that pickle, where do we even begin?
Yeah, okay. So a couple of things here, I think. First thing is, depends how much of a pickle you're in, right? because here's the thing. If you are in a real pickle, meaning that you have albatrosses around your neck when it comes to the people around you, when it comes to the projects that you are working on, if you are an entrepreneur, when it comes to the products that you have in your business, if they feel like they are heavy, if they feel like they are what I would call tier 3, which is that they give you negative, weird feelings, you might not even understand why they're giving you weird feelings, they are really consuming you, they keep you up at night, you think about these things, these people, these products, these projects all the time, then the first thing to do, the place to start, as you said, Amber, is to make space. And to understand that even though these things you might have enjoyed at one time, you know, we do stuff for a reason, right? We do what we can when we can in the best possible way we can. I truly believe that about humans. And so sometimes we make mistakes. We might not realize they're mistakes at the time. And then we end up with a life or business or both that is full of all of this stuff. And if we're in that place, if we're in that place where like our work and the people and the like, we're in a negative space where that stuff is consuming us to the point where we can't think about really anything else. And it just feels like we're in a pit or we're in a negative spiral or something like that. Then until we accept that it's okay to make mistakes, what's not okay is to hold on to those mistakes and protect those mistakes. Until we accept that and then start saying, okay, you know what? Well, actually, maybe this business partner, this client, this mentor, they're good humans, but maybe they're not right for me and I'm not right for them. And we start making space there. Maybe if we say, okay, look, all of these products that I've got going on, well, maybe there's one that you're devoting so much time, energy, and effort to, and really not getting much back in return. You're not getting much money back. It's not fulfilling. It's not really impacting your clients. It's okay to drop stuff. It's okay to set stuff free. It's okay to sack clients. It's okay to do all of these things to make space, because dropping that stuff that's unfulfilling isn't quitting. Because there's another one of these myths, grinding, quitting, right? So grinding is a good thing, quitting is a bad thing. Well, it's not quitting, it's creating space for work worth doing. And so that's where, if you're in a real pickle, that's where I would suggest that you start, is thinking, how can I take like the 20% of the stuff which is really causing me headaches? And that might be people, it might be projects, and how can I get rid of them? Or nicer said, set them free. Once you do that, I think until you do that, you can't even see the path. You haven't got space to think about the path. But when you do that, not only do you then have the space to think about the path forward and implement the path forward, but even beyond, you then maybe have the space to be creative and be visionary. Until that, it's just a cloud, right? And then from that point, Amber, so part 2, if you like, the next step. So either you might not be in that space, or you might have got out of that space, one or the other. Once you're there, how do you align your work with your values? Well, it starts with your values, of course. And so understanding those to the point where they are not just words on a piece of paper, where they are not just the words on a wall, which you have them on your wall and your clients comment on them and everything like that. But you know that they don't truly inform your work. They don't truly inform your words. They aren't truly integrated into the fabric of your offerings and communication. So having values that are really, really, truly reflect you as a human being, that's the start as far as I'm concerned.
So living the values, what you're saying.
Knowing the values, and then, because until we know them, we can't live them. And I find that a lot of the time, I know that this series, Amber, was formed from a desire to connect with and explore with purpose-driven coaches, consultants, entrepreneurs, creators, right? And and tell me what you think about this. The thing that I've found with the purpose-driven phenomenon and era that we're going through at the moment is that, and it's been going for a few years perhaps and really starting to take off like a rocket now. But I find a lot of the time that this sort of purpose-driven approach and emphasis that we have seen over the past few years has created a culture of entrepreneurs, of people who understand the importance of purpose, who understand the significance of purpose is important. I need to be grounded in purpose. My work needs to be grounded in purpose, but have no freaking clue how to actually figure out what this purpose thing is. And so that this is a big reason of why I wrote the book, is that actually that's not enough. It's not enough to just understand the importance of purpose. We need to actually ground this in truly meaningful words that truly represent us and our work, and then we can start to live them, to own them, to say them, to do them.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it's, you know, it's like any phenomena. It's, you know, once it picks up and then people just start to, you know, obviously you start something with good reasons, with good intentions, right? The intentions, I'm not going to question those intentions, but what happens over time is that it almost becomes a marketing phenomena. So more
that's true.
More a phenomena than a reason why you started doing something in the first place. So I guess it's about, you know, if you're at that stage, it's about what you talked about. Give yourself space and go back, reflect on why you started this in the first place. So it's a, you know, to realign yourself with your values, because there will come a time, you know, that, you know, you are maybe not as aligned with your values, and we have to then find that space and then go back to it, and knowing that, okay, we're getting off the path a little.
And you mentioned something there, Amber. You've mentioned it a couple of times now, which is that little voice that there must be more to it, that there must be more to life, that there must be more to work. And actually, so my clients are typically people, entrepreneurs who love what they do. So it's not like they hate their job. It's not like they hate their work. It's not like they're in a place where you know, they need to do a full 180. Actually, they really love what they do, but they struggle to create meaningful offerings and meaningful communications that are truly in line with their value and their values. And where that starts often for them is this little voice in their heads that maybe there's more to it, even though I love my work, even though my business is successful. So I know we talked about making space because you asked, like, what's the start, you know, right at the start. But actually, we don't have to be in a terrible place in life and in work, right, to be able to think about maybe something is slightly off. And I find for true purpose-driven entrepreneurs, when for those who really live for the alignment, who really, you know, want all these things to be aligned, their work and their words and their worlds to be aligned, that when something is slightly off, it feels like a million miles off. You know, when their work and their products and their offerings and their marketing and their social media isn't like, they aren't quite connected, they're almost there, but they're not quite there, that feels like a million miles off. Because here's what I found as well: when your offerings and your communications and yourself are all aligned, it's like magic. Everything works. Everything just feels like somehow the clients are connected to what you're saying, then they're connected to what you're doing. They're getting value from what you do. You're getting fulfillment from what you do. When there's misalignment there, when there's missed expectations because people are coming in through marketing which doesn't truly reflect you, you don't even believe it yourself when you're putting it out there. So how the hell are your prospects going to believe it, right? It's that you don't connect with it. So how the hell are your prospects going to connect with it? even if it somehow convinces them to join to do your work, then your communications and your offerings are misaligned. So there's expectations there. And then, okay, cool. When we start to have that stuff truly represent a journey, truly represent you, truly speak to your clients because you deeply understand them and you deeply understand you, now we're getting somewhere.
Right. So what I'm getting at is that the way we can be aligned with our values and give the most value is by deeply understanding what our prospect or our customers or our relationships or the other party on the other side, what they really want and what
Totally
value in their own life.
Totally. So I would say that that's the very next step. So once you understand your values, your vision and your vocation. So that ties together a lot of what we've spoken about so far, right? Vocation being those themes. So, you know, what's your version of meaningful work and powerful words? What's the convergence of those themes of where you do your best work? And sometimes those themes can be quite interesting and contrasting. And that's a really useful game to play and thing to figure out as well. So that's vocation. Your values, we've talked about those. Those are the grounding pieces. You know, those are the pieces of like behavioral benchmarks, behavioral edges that you try to stay in when you are doing all of this stuff. They keep you right, they keep you straight. And then your vision is obviously where you're headed to. So to me, if we're talking about purpose, if we're talking about meaning, they are three very specific, very tangible pieces with exercises that are contained within this book in terms of how to go about finding out these pieces for yourself. Once you have that meaning piece, then it's definitely about looking at your market. And by your market, I don't mean choosing a niche, because you don't choose a niche. Your niche chooses you, right? So I'm not talking about I think I want to work with these people. What I'm talking about when I mean understanding your market are, if you have even a little experience of work, you know, you might be quite young in your work, or you might have been doing things for decades, but you'll have a sense of the people who you can help best and the people who need you the most, the people who you have the most impact with, the people who you really enjoy working with, the people who get you and you get them, the people who champion your work, all of these things, that's your market. Understanding the overlap between all those pieces, all those questions, that's how to find your true target market, because that is the target market. That's the market that you truly do your best work with. You already do your best work with them. So we're good. We just now need to figure out how, like we need to understand that. And then after that, we then look at, okay, now we understand the meaning stuff. Now we understand the market stuff. You can see a pattern here. It all begins with M. So now we look at mission. So now we say, what's your mission? Take that vocation piece and blow it wide open, you know? So then we can say, okay, these people that you really help best, that you do your best work with, that you do your most impactful work with, how do you do that? And then when you understand who needs you the most, who you can impact the most, who you can like take on the most transformational journey, and couple that with how you do your best work, now you're in a place to build it out. Now you're in a place to figure out what your methodology is. Now you're in a place to figure out what your business model looks like. Now you're in a place to figure out what your marketing looks like. But with most industries, people always start at the wrong end, right? They're like, I need to figure out my marketing. I need to figure out my business model. I need to figure out all of that stuff. Well, actually, we need to figure out meaning, market, and mission first, because it all comes from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Starts with the message, and the message obviously starts with what you just spoke about, the values, the meaning, the mission. Because when you speak in that manner, or truly from your heart, right, it automatically attracts the people
like you.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not about, like what you said, it's not about choosing a niche. They just automatically are attracted to you because your message, your values resonate with theirs, and they think like, well, he or she is my kind of person.
And you know what the super cool thing about that is? If you are looking to, so if you're this person who you're like, okay, look, there must be more to it. I want to start something new. I want to start my business. I want to do a side hustle. I want to, like, I'm ready to step into my life's work. But where am I going to get my clients from? Right? That's the devil or the monkey on your shoulder. Well, guess what? Actually, you have a whole bunch of people around you already who have followed you over the last few years, who are maybe friends who you don't even think of as clients, who are acquaintances who have gravitated to you and are basically just waiting for you to put out something that really connects and resonates with them. So that's the cool thing. So with my clients and my mentors and my friends, I can't even distinguish between them. I cannot tell you the amount of clients who are also coaches of mine, the amount of my coaches who are also my clients, the amount of my close friends who are also my clients. Those, that because actually we're just in this close network, and because we understand who we serve best and we understand how we do that, we can, it's like a super network. We can really, even if we look like we're in competition, we're not in competition, because I can tell, I can tell you how I differentiate myself from another business and communications coach very clearly. And I can tell you who my clients are compared to someone else very clearly. So I can help other business and communications coaches, and they can help me because we know our own niches.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. And it's very important to bear in mind what we just spoke about, because a lot of people, especially, let's talk about from entrepreneurship point of view.
Sure, that's where I come from most of the time, as you can probably tell.
Yeah, is that people, like you said, start at the wrong end, because I guess the reason why, because we're thinking about, I gotta make money, right? It's just figure out how I'm going to make money, right? And then we fall into that trap of, okay, maybe we're making some money, and then we fall into that trap of, okay, I don't know what the hell am I doing? I don't know where the next business is going to come from, and all these things start happening because we really haven't been true to ourselves. We haven't refined our values. We haven't refined our mission. We haven't refined the meaning of our work. We just went in there thinking, okay, I know I can make quick bucks.
But you know what, Amber? Let's address that for a second, because actually that need to make money is right at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy, right? It's a need. Like, we need a roof over our head, we need food on the table, and so, like, we're not saying here that let's just do this woolly purpose stuff and then let's just manifest some money into existence, right? We're not saying that. What we're saying is, actually, these things don't have to be separate, and let's just bring that to a really specific point. Where does money come from, right? As in, of course, it doesn't grow on trees. We know that, but how do you make money? You make money from solving deep client problems and taking them on a journey to where they want to be, to the outcomes that they want. Until we figure out the stuff that we've just talked about. So until we figure out doing that in a way which is aligned with us, which we resonate with, therefore we can put out there into the world with confidence and with energy, and we understand our people, so we understand what they want, their deep needs. We understand where they want to be, even better than they understand it. That's when we can create the stuff that makes the money. Because otherwise you'll get, okay, fine, you'll get some money, but then you won't. And then you'll be looking for the next thing. And because we haven't necessarily done the impactful work that we could do, because we didn't understand the deep client problems and where they need to be in terms of outcomes and consequence, we haven't been able to make the money and do the work that we otherwise would have been able to do. And if we do that, we can make the money and deliver impact and have power in the world and do it in a way that takes us and them to where they want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I know, I mean, you're just looking at you, but there's so much stuff that I want to talk about, but this particularly I wanted to, because I think a lot of people, a lot of businesses, as we say, they fumble upon that. And, you talk about in your book, value the fit. And recruiting for fitness, because that's something. I mean, it's important for my business, as well as I know a lot of people who listen to this podcast who are building teams, who have teams, and they struggle with this part of, what is this value fit? How do you hire for value? And this is a lot of confusion there. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So here's what I see with that is that it ends up boiling down to one rule, which is basically, so I'll say, okay, how do you hire on fit then? That's the question, like you're saying. And they'll say, okay, well, basically we have one rule, and it's we don't hire a-holes, right? We don't hire idiots. And okay, that's cool, good starting point. Like, don't hire people who are idiots, but at the same time, that's not recruiting for fit. That's just not doing the bad stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I think that just comes as a consequence. What they're trying to say is, you want to hire people who are in alignment with us as human beings. And because there's this, so they understand, it's back to everything that we've talked about so far, I think, Amber. It's back to the fact that they understand the importance of recruiting on fit. They understand that technical skills can most of the time be taught.
Yes.
And they understand that when we're talking about fit, what we're talking about is the human being. So they're basically saying, oh, we're going to recruit nice human beings. Okay, cool, that's good. But actually what we want here is to truly recruit based on values. And it's quite straightforward in terms of specific tactics for recruiting on fit. It comes down to truly understanding your values. So again, doing the exercises, doing the work to find values which you feel proud about, which you feel energized and excited about, which you truly feel represent you, and that you want to tell everyone about. Like, 3 words which, if Amber, all I told you was my values, then I would feel like I've done myself justice. So that's when you've got a good set of values, right? When you have that, you can literally plug those values into sentences like you may have seen in the book. So you could say, for example, let's say one of your values is honesty. Honesty is one of mine. It's my very first value. So you could say, tell me about a time when you diffused a difficult customer situation through honesty. So now you have probably some techniques that interviewers will be experienced with. Behavioral based interviewing, it's called. But instead of the behaviors, you're inserting the values. And so you could ask similar questions to that as well, right? So you could say something like, okay, so tell me what responsibility looks like to you. So honesty, respect, and responsibility are my 3 personal values, right? So you could say, tell me what responsibility looks like to you in the workplace. And here's what's going to happen. If that is their true value, right? If they in fact, even if they align with that value, if they connect with that value, I could tell you 20 things right now about how responsibility manifests in the workplace, how I would bring responsibility to the workplace, how I would expect responsibility to be brought to the workplace with my colleagues, with my clients, and everything else. If they're just paying lip service to these values, then they're not going to be able to think of situations on the spot in which these values are truly in play, and what they look like in a work setting, or what they look like in the previous work, or what they look like in future work. That's how you recruit on fit, because it's really easy then to see the people who are truly in line with your values, and see the people who are just saying, that's respect is really important to me. Okay, tell me about a time when, okay.
If I could say that this has been the biggest takeaway for me from your book, because when I read, because you have shared some example questions as well, and I really like that, because I'm currently hiring for another position, and this, in running a business, this has been, I've found, having the right team, hiring the right team has been the most difficult part. Everything else is easy. Having the right team around you has been the most difficult and the crucial part. And I found this exercise that you've shared, I thought it was brilliant, because as I am now interviewing for that position, I am going to be asking those questions, because it really makes so much sense, because and it's a good way to know that, you are going to retain that team member for a while as well, because otherwise,
exactly, because like we said, that is the heart of everything, right? And Amber, let's go for a world exclusive on this podcast then, because my second book, and I've not told anyone this publicly yet, but my second book, the working title is The Right People.
Oh, wow.
And it's a similar, so exactly in line with what you're saying. And I'm writing it right now. The premise of the book is, with the right people, everything works. With the wrong people, nothing works.
Yeah, absolutely. That is so true. Because, and it's a good lesson for everybody, who, especially for youngsters who haven't started their businesses yet, or anybody who's now thinking about going into business, is that this is the most difficult and most important part, having the right people around you who will propel you and basically implement your values within the entire business, and help it move forward. Because otherwise, it's just having the right product, or having some clients. That's easy part. It comes.
And could I share some experience there? Something that I didn't do particularly well in my younger days, but it's one of my business values now, right? So personal values are different from business values. That's probably a whole other discussion. But for one of my business values is mutual win. And I think that if younger Chet had been more in tune with this idea of mutual win as opposed to self-win,
yes,
or actually not just that, but as opposed to, so here's what I think happens, right? And just as a little side point, I believe that values, and one of the exercises in the book relates to this, that values are a representation of us at our best, but they're also a representation of us at our worst. So often they are reflections of previous versions of ourselves where we mess this stuff up. And so there's times when we're coming back to try to do better around these values, right? But mutual win, let's come back to that. So I remember a time when in negotiations, for example, a price negotiation, I would always try to find the win for me. So I would try to get down to and that I thought at the time in a price negotiation might have been the lowest possible price for me, right? But actually now it's incredibly important to me, whether it's a price negotiation, a partnership, or whatever else. It's incredibly important that there is equal win, there is mutual win for all parties. And often I'll have really interesting discussions with potential partnerships or potential clients or potential, like anything like that, potential coaches and mentors of mine, because I'll ask them what work worth doing is for them, because I want the work that we're doing together, I want the interactions that we're having to be just as much of a win for them. And I can't think of a better way of representing win than work worth doing, work that is fun, freeing, fulfilling, financially rewarding. If it's that for them and it's that for me, well, I'm prepared to, I thought that's the sweet spot. And so I don't try to find now that win that is like, how do I find win here? I don't try to also find win for the other person, because I think as givers, as helpers, as coaches, as consultants, we can flip in the other direction as well. And we can try to find so much win for the other party, I've definitely been there, that we forget ourselves in the process. So now I'm like, look, we're both important here. We both matter, or we all matter. How do we find that mutual win? So my advice to my younger self would be like, stop looking to one-sided win and try to find the mutual win in every situation. Yeah,
absolutely. And it stays true for both in personal relationships as well as business relationships.
For sure.
It goes, it works in all situations.
It does, really does, yeah.
Now, as we're coming towards the end of this live, I quickly wanted to touch up upon, I came across your article that you wrote, I think in February this year, which was called The Biggest Post-Lockdown Danger for Purpose-Driven Entrepreneurs. So I wanted to ask about what actually do you mean by that? What is that danger?
Oh, yeah, I can't even remember the article now, actually, to be honest, Amber. But the biggest danger for the lockdown danger for purpose-driven entrepreneurs, thinking about it right now, and hopefully this is what the article says too, but it would be to take heed of the lessons that we learnt in lockdown and not ignore them. So the danger would be that we come out of like all this last year, and we've taken we've had time, we've had space. Most of us, some of us, I really respect and appreciate that some of us, you only need to look at the NHS as an example, right? And key workers to see that some of us have had to go full pelt into this, and we're so grateful and respectful and appreciative of that. But for many of us, others, we've found time, we've found space. We've also found opportunity to think about what's important to us. Maybe we've had more time in and around family. Maybe we've had more time in and around home, for better or for worse, for everything that brings. And we understand, we've taken some time to reflect. And maybe we haven't had the commutes because we're working from home and all of this kind of stuff. Now, what I see happening at this very moment in time, as we sit here and chat and record this podcast, is that people are already, it's easily forgotten, right? That there are demands of the world that come back into play now that things are starting to get back to normal again, whatever normal is. They're not going to get back to normal. We have to create our new normal. Like you said at the beginning, we have to understand that we're in the saddle, right? And it's our choice and our opportunity. And so the danger would be just sliding back into those old behavioral patterns, as opposed to saying, this stuff that I really, truly know and believe is important, that there's something more to my life and to my work than what I'm sliding back into. Okay, instead of sliding back into it, I'm going to listen to it and I'm going to start figuring some of this stuff out, all the stuff that we've talked about in this podcast. And the steps that we've talked about, we've talked about and hopefully provided some practical steps for beginning to sort this stuff out. And honestly, this isn't meant to be a plug, but I just have to say this at this point in time. Like this is the starting point, is the book, because hopefully it literally gives that practical guidance for, okay, you know what? We kind of understand what's important to us. So let's put that into some words, and then let's use those words to inform our actions.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love that. And I'm sure a lot of people who listen back to this or watch this live on record, they will find a lot of nuggets of information and knowledge that they'll find very helpful. Just a quick note that this show is sponsored by 𝒂𝒅𝒄𝒆 Den, now rebranded as 𝒂𝒊𝒅𝒂, helping you amplify your voice, defy obscurity, and ignite your brand. You will also find best bits of this show repurposed into bite-sized content on my YouTube channel, which I'll share the link with you quickly, bit.ly/spreading ideas with Amber Khan. Now, Chet, you've got a message to share, and that's why you've written a book, and now you've just shared that you've got another one in the pipeline. How do you amplify your voice, your message, so that it may reach the intended audience for them to be able to take action on it?
Okay, well, I think I amplify my voice through my work and through my words, and that by doing that in a way that is truly aligned with me, and by doing that in a way which is connected and aligned with my people, that cascades, that opens up, right? Because here's something cool to maybe consider as we wrap this up, that the thing that we need help with the most is the thing that we help others with the most. Right? So the thing that we need help with the most is the thing we help others with the most. So what does that mean? It means to me two things. It means that it's okay to look for mentors and coaches in the very thing that you do, right? So actually, I'm a business and communications coach. If you come down to just the basics of it, guess who I need the most? Business and communications coaches, right? So I'm talking about amplifying my voice, and we're talking about amplifying my voice. I'm talking about aligning my business. Guess what I need? People to help me amplify my voice and align my business, right? What it also means is that this very stuff that we struggle with is the stuff that we help our people with. So the stuff that we're figuring out, because it's our eternal battle, it's our life's work to figure this stuff out, is what we help other people with. So now what this means is it starts to create significance and meaning around this idea that we attract like-minded people and we attract humans like us. And so if we understand this stuff and we embrace that we need coaches in the stuff that we do, and our clients are going to be people like us, then we start to create a network of very like-minded people who are all after the same thing and lean on each other to do that. And so to me, the amplification comes from alignment. It comes from alignment of your work with your words, with you and your world, and then doing that through the people that you work with and the words that you say.
Yeah, love that. Love that. Now, folks, if you're trying to get in touch with Chet, you can, or if you want to read his book, you can buy it at a bookworthreading.club/get it, or you can buy it on Amazon, or you could connect with Chet on his social media platforms at Chet Morjaria on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram.
For those of the listeners who do pick up the book from the Get It link, I'll send them a signed copy as well. So
awesome.
Maybe something to.
That is awesome. That is awesome. All right. Now, folks, it is now the time of the interview for us. And you may be thinking, what is it? Gossip time, or share the fun pickup lines time, or tell an embarrassing joke time? Unfortunately, we're not that type of a show yet. Well, not yet anyway. But what it is time for is the 48-hour challenge time. So, Chet, this is where I ask you to share what is that one thing that our viewers and listeners can implement in the next 48 hours to ensure the work that they are doing is worth doing it.
Cool. Really good question, Amber. So, as probably has happened with half of this podcast, I'm not quite going to answer your question. And I'm really glad we didn't chat about pickup lines or embarrassing jokes, because actually embarrassing jokes I'm pretty good at with the dad jokes. But yeah, the other stuff, we won't go there. But yeah, okay. In terms of a 48-hour challenge, your 48-hour challenge, listeners, is to make space. And what I mean specifically by this is to take a product or a project or a person who, like we identified earlier on, so you might want to go back in the podcast and listen to when we talked about making space right at the beginning. Identify a person or project or product that is tier 3, meaning that you give way more to it than it gives you back in any way. And also it really consumes you in terms of those kind of negative, weird, strange thoughts and feelings. Your 48-hour challenge is to set one of those things free. So have a difficult conversation with that person. Look at the product which is actually really causing you that aggro, and which you don't even want to do anymore. When you see it in your calendar, you like, when someone buys that product or service or signs up to it, you're like, oh man, that means I have to do this thing now, right? That project that you've been just grinding at for ages and getting nowhere, maybe even going backwards. It's time to set that thing free. So for the gold standard for bonus points, Amber, it would be to take one from each category. So to take a person, to take a project, and to take a product. But even just one thing, one person or one project or one product, set it free. Then find me on social media, Chet Morjaria, and tell me what you've done. I would absolutely love to hear. And if you're struggling to do that, so usually where the struggle comes is, okay, look, I've identified this thing isn't serving me anymore, but I don't know how to take the next steps. I don't know how to have the conversation. I'm not sure. It feels difficult. It feels awkward. I'm going to let these people down, all this kind of stuff. Message me and I'll help you through it.
Awesome. And I'm this is actually an interesting challenge, because it's also it will get people out of their comfort zone, because sometimes we're just too comfortable where we are. So it's about, let's jiggle a bit and put ourselves through this.
And what I promise is that anyone who completes this challenge or who works to complete this challenge, I absolutely promise that they will find so much headspace on the other side of this, but headspace beyond what you can even fathom, because you're in this place right now, and that is worth having.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I like it when you've clarified the picture, what they're going for.
Yeah, we have to, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Love it. Well, Chet, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a wonderful session. And there was so much more we could have talked about, but we are limited for time. But I hope that people who do listen to it later on or watch it, that they find the best nuggets from it and find it helpful, and get in touch with you if they would like even more guidance. But
I hope so too, Amber. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, toodaloo for now.
Bye for now.